It's late. The world has finally, quieted down. And maybe you're sitting there winding down, nursing a drink of your own.
Yeah.
You know that specific feeling when you watch a massive, supposedly invincible institution like a legacy tech giant or a century-old bank just completely implode overnight.
Oh, right, when everyone is just shocked.
Exactly. You sit there looking at the headlines and you think, well, there must be some incredibly complex mathematical reason for the collapse.
Yeah, I mean, people always lean toward complex theories. It feels safer,
Hmm.
to believe that empires fall because of sophisticated algorithms or, like, unpredictable market forces.
Usually it's not complicated at all. Usually it's just human beings acting profoundly, embarrassingly human.
So true.
Welcome to this deep dive. Tonight, we're pulling from a massive stack of sources, ancient historical texts, translated battlefield accounts, modern strategic analyses, to look at the final tragic peak of what might be, honestly, the most legendary startup generation in history.
The Three Kingdoms era.
Right, ancient China.
It really remains the ultimate cutthroat corporate ecosystem.
It totally does. So our mission for this deep dive is to trace how a massively successful enterprise known as the Shuhan Group was completely derailed.
And derail quickly.
Right. And let me establish this up front. They were not outsmarted by some visionary enemy genius.
No, not at all.
30 years of hard-fought startup capital was wiped off the board by two very basic, very human flaws. Specifically one, and his entire personal brand, like the narrative he sells to the public, is built on benevolence and righteousness. He's the socially conscious, good guy founder.
But a strong brand without infrastructure is really just a concept.
It's just a pitch deck. Which brings us to his lead consultant. Liu Bei employs this brilliant strategist named Zhu Liang,
The mastermind.
the absolute mastermind, and Zhu Liang hands him a long-term business blueprint. The core directive of that blueprint is simple. Stop renting.
Yeah, you need a permanent headquarters.
Right. Specifically, you need the Sichuan region to serve as your base of operations.
And Sichuan was perfect. I mean, the geographic layout made it an impenetrable fortress. It was the perfect incubator for a growing empire.
But acquiring it meant Liu Bei had to confront a massive ethical dilemma.
A huge one.
A dilemma that leads to an incredibly cynical business move. Let me paint the picture for you here. The guy who currently owns the Sichuan region is Liu Zhang.
Right, his relative.
Yes. He's actually a distant relative of our CEO, Liu Bei. It's like a cousin in the industry. And this cousin's company is completely failing.
He's panicking.
He's terrified about hostile takeovers from competitors. So he looks at Liu Bei, the guy with the sterling reputation for being righteous, and he hires him as a turnaround manager. He invites Liu Bei into the building to secure his defenses.
He essentially hands the keys to the castle to the one man who desperately needs a castle.
It's unbelievable. I mean, imagine you walk into your cousin's office to, quote-unquote, save his business. You look around and you realize, wow, the corner office has amazing natural light.
The square footage is incredible.
Right. So you don't save his company, you change the locks, you kick your cousin out onto the street, and you put the deed in your own name.
Just brutal.
It's a straight-up hostile takeover disguised as a consulting gig. But here's where I'm confused, and I really need you to break this down. If Liu Bei's entire 30-year career is built on being Mr. Righteous, how does he justify backstabbing his own family member? Doesn't a move like that instantly tank his stock price with his loyal followers?
Well, if he had simply kicked the door down on day one, yes, his reputation would have absolutely plummeted.
So what did he do?
Liu Bei executed a slow burn. He didn't just seize power right away. He waited for the internal environment to deteriorate.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, he cultivated loyalty among Sichuan's middle management and basically allowed the situation to reach a crisis point.
So taking over seemed less like an invasion and more like an intervention?
Exactly. He framed it as stepping up to stabilize a failing system.
He manufactures a scenario where he looks like the reluctant savior.
Right. He creates a narrative that protects the brand. But underneath the spin, it highlights a core contradiction in leadership that honestly hasn't changed in 2,000 years. Liu Bei had to compromise his carefully crafted personal brand to secure the Shuhan Group's permanent headquarters. You just cannot build a massive, sprawling empire while keeping your hands perfectly clean.
The real estate of power always costs a piece of your reputation.
Exactly.
You can't be a saint and a billionaire at the same time. The math just doesn't work.
It doesn't. He secured his foundation, but the hypocrisy of that initial takeover is It's really the first invisible crack in the company's culture.
Which sets off a chain reaction. So Liu Bei finally has his massive headquarters,
Yeah,
but prime real estate requires heavy defense.
absolutely.
And because the CEO is now tied down playing boardroom politics in Sichuan, he has to leave his most critical, vulnerable supply chain, the Jingzhou branch, in the hands of his top executive out in the field.
Right. Which shifts our focus from the corporate headquarters to the top sales region. We have to look at Guan Yu.
Guan Yu. Man, okay, so Guan Yu is Liu Bei's sworn brother-in-arms. He's the vanguard. He's the ace. And right now, Guan Yu is operating at the absolute peak of his career.
Oh, he's untouchable.
I mean, the numbers he is putting up are staggering. He launches this massive military offensive against the rival CEO Cao Cao. And Guan Yu doesn't just win a skirmish, he executes a maneuver known as the flooding of the Seven Armies.
It's an operation that fundamentally alters the balance of power in the region.
I was reading the translated battlefield accounts on this, and it is terrifying. He doesn't just wait for rain. He engineers the battlefield.
Yeah, he dams up the local river.
Right. He dams it up, waits for the autumn monsoons to swell the waters to a breaking point, and then he just unleashes the floodgates.
He literally liquidates the enemy's assets.
Literally.
Ah,
It's such a devastating victory that Cao Cao, who, by the way, is widely considered the most ruthless, cold-blooded operator in this entire era, genuinely considers packing up his corporate headquarters and relocating to a different zip code.
just to avoid dealing with Guan Yu.
Exactly.
I mean, when a competitor of Cao Cao's caliber considers abandoning their capital, you've reached the absolute pinnacle of industry dominance.
So Guan Yu is essentially the arrogant corporate golden boy at this point. He's the superstar athlete with 3 championship rings who starts believing his own press releases.
Yes, he has caught a terminal, stage 4 case of big head disease.
His ego has its own gravitational pull at this point.
It really does, and that is the insidious danger of consecutive high-level success. When an executive stops losing, they stop receiving corrective feedback.
You just lose your tether to reality.
Exactly. Guan Yu stopped seeing himself as a VP, operating within a larger corporate system, and began to view himself as an untouchable deity.
And untouchable deities do not negotiate, which brings us to the ultimate PR disaster.
The big one.
There's a third major player in this market, the Wu Group, led by a CEO named Sun Quan.
Right.
Now, Sun Quan looks at the market share Guan Yu is gobbling up and thinks, well, we need to lock down an alliance, standard corporate diplomacy.
Very standard.
So Sun Quan sends an envoy to arrange a strategic merger via a marriage alliance between his own family and Guan Yu's family.
It was a highly conventional, mutually beneficial proposal, a standard mechanism to solidify a neutral partnership and just maintain market stability.
So how does our arrogant ace salesman respond? He doesn't just decline the term sheet. He doesn't have his assistant draft a polite refusal.
No, he doesn't.
Guan Yu looks at the envoy of a massive rival conglomerate and says, out loud, on the record, how can my tiger daughter marry your dog son?
The lack of foresight is almost difficult to comprehend.
Tiger daughter, dog son. I mean, as a cynical observer sitting in a bar thousands of years later, I have to respect the sheer cruelty of the trash talk.
It's definitely memorable.
But as a business move,
Yeah.
it's objectively suicidal. But I have to ask you, why did Sun Quan care so much about a verbal insult? We are talking about warlords who kill thousands of people before breakfast. Why does being called a dog completely derail the geopolitical landscape?
Because in a delicate ecosystem of alliances, reputation is currency. Sun Quan wasn't just insulted privately, he was humiliated diplomatically. Guan Yu's comment signaled to the entire market that the Shu Han Group viewed the Wu Group not as peers, but as subordinates.
Like they were beneath them.
Exactly. And you cannot manage a strategic partnership if one side publicly denies the other's basic legitimacy. Guan Yu didn't just reject a deal, he actively pushed a crucial, neutral ally straight into the arms of his biggest competitor.
He practically gift-wrapped the Wu Group and shipped them to Cao Cao via overnight delivery.
He really did. It exposes a fatal deficit in political intelligence.
Raw talent just isn't enough, is it?
No. Being the absolute best tactical fighter in the field cannot compensate for a lack of boardroom diplomacy. You can have the best product in the world, but if you treat your supply chain partners like stray animals, your entire logistical network will collapse.
I mean, you insult a rival CEO like that, he doesn't just post an angry rant on social media and move on. He initiates retaliation.
Sun Quan was furious. But it was also calculating. He knew a frontal assault against Guan Yu's heavy armor would be a catastrophic waste of resources.
Right, because Guan Yu is still out on the front lines, fighting, flexing, completely distracted by his own momentum.
Yes. So Sun Quan authorizes a stealth operation to take back the prime real estate of Jingzhou. He sends an operative named Lu Meng, who utilizes a tactic known as white clothes crossing the river.
Man, I love this part. It is a masterclass in asymmetrical corporate espionage.
It really is.
From the military accounts, Lu Meng takes his elite commando units and just strips them of their armor. He disguises them in plain white clothes, effectively dressing them as ordinary, harmless civilian merchants.
Right.
They hide their weapons under the decks of standard trading vessels, and they just row right down the river, smiling and waving as they bypass all of Guan Yu's heavy security checkpoints.
It's brilliant because while Guan Yu is looking strictly outward, entirely focused on his aggressive expansion, his alienated partners are quietly slipping in through the back door.
Just walking right in.
Exactly. And neutralizing his watchtowers without sounding a single alarm.
It's the ultimate workplace backstab. I mean, think about it in modern terms. Guan Yu is the arrogant salesman out in the field. He's taking clients out to steak dinners, closing multi-million-dollar deals, completely ignoring his relationship with the internal team back home.
He's alienated everyone.
Right. He's alienated the logistics department. He's mocked the IT guys. And then he closes the biggest deal of his life, turns around to ship the product, and realizes his own supposed partners have completely emptied his warehouse.
They changed the password.
They locked him out of his own CRM system.
And suddenly, all that individual brilliance and field success means absolutely nothing. A salesman without a product is just a guy talking in an empty room.
So Guan Yu is completely cut off. His supply lines vanish, his internal support evaporates, and ultimately he is isolated and eliminated. The invincible superstar is dead.
And if you analyze the broader implications of this defeat, it really represents a massive paradigm shift in the industry.
How so?
Well, Guan Yu was not outfought by a superior military force. He was outpoliticized by a superior management strategy. This moment definitively closes the chapter on the era of pure martial bravery.
The era where you can just swing the biggest sword and command the largest market share is over.
Completely over.
Why?
From this point forward in the timeline, brains, espionage, alliances, and adaptability matter far more than sheer force.
Right.
Guan Yu was a dinosaur who failed to notice that the climate had permanently changed. He believed his individual talent made him immune to the consequences of corporate politics.
But it didn't.
It did not.
So the star employee is dead. The company has lost its biggest asset, its prime market in Jingzhou, and its entire aura of invincibility.
The terrible quarter.
The worst. So how does the benevolent, socially conscious CEO, Liu Bei, react to this devastating quarterly loss?
By entirely abandoning the persona he spent 30 years building.
He loses his mind. I mean, he hears about the death of his sworn brother, Guan Yu, and all that calculated patience, all that righteous brand management. It just vanishes.
He rejects every piece of rational data.
His brilliant consultant, Zhu Zhiliang, the CFO and chief strategy officer who literally drew the blueprint for his entire success, is standing there waving red flags, begging him to stay focused on the long-term vision.
Because Zhu Zhiliang understood the fundamental rule of executive leadership. Grief cannot dictate corporate strategy.
Right.
A retaliatory war against the Wu Group would just bankrupt the company.
But wait, Zhu Zhiliang is the architect of the company. Does he not have any veto power here? How does the board just sit back and watch the CEO bet the entire corporate pension fund on a revenge trade?
This is a textbook example of founder syndrome.
Okay, explain that.
Well, in a highly centralized, personality-driven startup, the board is often just an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Zhu Zhiliang had intellectual authority, but Liu Bei held the absolute moral and structural authority. When the founder is emotionally compromised and determined to drive the company off a cliff, a consultant, no matter how brilliant, cannot rip the steering wheel away.
Wow. It's the Wall Street equivalent of a catastrophic emotional trade. You see a trader take a massive loss, and instead of stepping back, cooling off, and reassessing their position, they just see red.
They double down.
They leverage every asset they have to try and win it back in one wild swing. Driven purely by emotional agony, Liu Bei goes all in. He liquidates the entire 30-year Shuhan startup fund to launch a massive revenge war against Sun Quan.
And this brings us to the Battle of Yiling.
Right.
And Sun Quan makes a fascinating, highly unconventional management decision here.
He does.
To face Liu Bei's massive, angry veteran army, he does not deploy an older established general. He promotes a young, relatively unknown entity.
He sends out a genius intern named Lu Shun.
Yeah. And Liu Shen grasps something fundamental about asymmetrical warfare. You do not interrupt a furious opponent when they are in the process of making a mistake.
Lu Shun just waits. He sits there with agonizing patience, while Liu Bei, blinded by rage in the sweltering summer heat, completely mismanages his own logistical setup.
It's painful to watch.
Liu Bei moves his massive army into a heavily wooded, narrow valley. And to keep his troops near water, he links all of his military camps together in a continuous line stretching for miles.
He constructed an unbroken chain of wooden barricades and tents in a dense forest during the dry season. He essentially built a continuous fuse.
It is corporate negligence on a staggering scale. It's like taking all of your company's physical servers, packing them into one tiny, highly flammable room without a cooling system, and linking them all to a single faulty power strip.
That is exactly what it was like.
And Lu Shun, the intern, watches this happen. He waits for the troops to be exhausted by the heat, borrows an old-school tactic that Cao Cao used years ago, and simply strikes a match.
The physics of the resulting fire attack are just devastating. Liu Shan didn't just burn a few tents.
No.
The layout of the camps in that narrow valley created a thermal wind tunnel effect. Once the first camp ignited, the updraft literally sucked the flames into the next camp. The fire spread faster than the soldiers could run.
It is a total wipeout. In a single night, an entire generation of accumulated wealth, elite personnel, and strategic market advantage is reduced to ash.
We really have to dissect the extreme danger of emotional decision-making at the executive level here.
Please.
A lifetime of careful planning, relationship building, and political maneuvering was incinerated in a weekend. Why? Because the CEO refused to process his grief and anger responsibly.
Right.
When raw emotion takes the wheel, 30 years of structural progress can be unraveled in 30 hours.
It is a brutal reality check. Liu Bei barely manages to escape the fire, but he is psychologically and physically broken. The company is ruined.
Completely ruined.
He retreats to a fortress called Beatty City, where his health collapses. He's forced into a very early, very grim medical retirement. And on his deathbed, he has to hand over this smoking crater of a company, along with his young, completely inexperienced heir, to Zhuge Liang.
He leads his lead consultant to clean up the greatest mess in the history of the industry.
Which brings our story to its grim but incredibly educational conclusion. Let's recap what just happened to the board of directors here.
Okay.
The original founders of this era, the guys who built the industry from the ground up, have all exited the stage. Cao Cao, the ruthless pragmatist, is gone. Liu Bei, the benevolent hypocrite, is gone. Guan Yu, the arrogant superstar, is dead. Zhang Fei, another key founder, is gone.
The stage has been completely cleared of the old guard.
Right.
It's the definitive end of an era. And if we distill a final operational lesson for you, the listener, it comes down to this reality. Starting an empire is incredibly hard, requires luck, vision, and relentless hustle. But maintaining that empire, that is exponentially harder.
Building the rocket is one thing, right? Keeping it from exploding in orbit is another entirely.
Maintenance requires emotional regulation. It requires the humility to be polite to partners you secretly despise. It requires political tact. If you lack that tact like Guan Yu, or if you allow your personal emotional baggage to dictate your heaviest investments like Liu Bei, then it does not matter how massive your advantage is. It does not matter how many decades you spent building your portfolio. It can all burn to the ground overnight.
It's a remarkably fragile ecosystem, you know? But before we wrap up tonight, as you finish that drink, I want to leave you with a different angle to mull over. We spend so much time analyzing the visionary founders, the CEOs, the guys who get their names on the buildings.
Right, the headliners.
But think about the curse of the ultimate fixer. Think about Zhuge Liang. Here is a brilliant manager, a visionary strategist who told everyone exactly what not to do, who watched his bosses ignore his advice and burn the company to the ground.
And his reward?
His reward is he's left holding the bag. He's stuck in the building, working late into the night, trying to hit massively ambitious KPIs entirely on his own, managing the slow, painful decline of someone else's broken dream. Are the most brilliant managers doomed to spend their final years just sweeping up the ashes of the founders' egos?
It's a dark thought.
It really is. Think about that the next time you find yourself fixing someone else's mistake at work.